Hey, what's up, guys? We have an action-filled vlog today. We got a guy that cusses me out on the table. We get a huge bluff through, and we have a guy that shoves all into us when we have a full house. Make sure you stay tuned to the end to see how the session ended. Anyways, thanks for loving sport. Let's get in those poker hands. All right, guys, we are starting kind of in the middle of this hand, so I'll catch you guys up. Basically, all that's happened is I raised to $10, and then the person to my left middle position raised it up to 35. Folds around to his small blind. He decides to call the 35, and I'm not going anywhere with ace-queen offsuit as of yet, so I put in the call as well. We are going three ways to this flop, which comes out 9 ace 4, so we flop top pair with a very good kicker. We're still behind ace king, but ahead of all his pocket pairs except for 9s and 4s, but I don't think he's raising 4s to 35. Anyways, we check and flow to him. He bets $50. The small blind player shuffles his chips for a little bit before deciding to fold, and we have ace queen here. If he has ace king, he's just going to win a big pot. I don't see any way I can fold as of right now, so I call the $50, and we're going heads up to the turn, which is the 10 of clubs. Now, same spot as before. I check my cards just simply to see if I have a club, and I check to him. I think once someone re-raises, it's better to check to them and check and flow. He checks behind, so I know he has a pocket pair that we're ahead of at this point, and the river comes the ace of diamonds. I think this is a great card because it makes it less likely for us to have an ace and more likely for him to pay us off if we bet here. I think checking's a bad move, so I decide to lead out for $85. I think this will get the call of queens, kings, jacks, things like that. Obviously, 10s would have raised, and they would have continued betting on the turn. So I think we're ahead of all his pocket pairs, and I think this is a bet we have to make because, like I said, we can also get called by ace-jack. I don't necessarily think he has ace-jack. I don't think he's re-raising to 35 with that. And like I said, I think ace-king continues betting on the turn. So the only hands he can possibly have are pocket pairs that we're ahead of, and like I said, less likely we have him because there's two aces out there. He does eventually decide to make the call. We let him know we have ace queen. He knocks the table, says good hand, shows he had pocket jacks, starting the night off with a win of $375. Let's go. And there's nothing like seeing chips shipped your way. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's like chip porn, you know? It's the best. All right, on to the next hand. All right, guys, for the next hand, we don't have quite as big of a hand, but there is a $5 button straddle I put on, $10 and a $20 button straddle. So forget your regular 1-2 game. This one is going off the rails. Look down, see 7 deuce offsuit. The cutoff called, so I figure I'll call for 15 more. We'll see what happens. Small blind then raises it up to $50, and this is the player we were just in the hand with when we had ace queen. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why is 7 deuce offsuit even on this vlog? Why are you wasting our time with this horrible hand? Well, let me explain. The hijack calls the $50. That in turn makes the cutoff call the $50. So it's only $30 more for me to win the $150 that's already out there. So I make the call. We don't have to flop something. We can just bluff and take this down, guys. We're going 4 ways to the flop. A $200 pot already, I might add, with 7 deuce offsuit. Hey, poker can be fun. At this point, action checks around to us. I'm in position. I have the button. The flop is 9-10-10 with 2 hearts. I feel if anybody had an overpair, if anybody had a 10, if anybody had anything, they would have bet on this flop because this texture is so wet. So when everyone checks to us, of course I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to bet $80. And hold on one second. Guys, you won't believe this. 88% of you are not subscribed. Only 12 are. So if you could, please do me a favor. Drop a subscribe. Just click the button down below. It's free to do. I'm betting $80 with 7 deuce offsuit into a $200 pot. Please show me some love. Anyways, back to the poker hand. All right, guys, so we took a stab at this for $80, hoping to take it down right here, but I do think it may take multiple streets because it is such a draw-heavy board. I mean, right now, Queen Jack's going to stick around. Any flush draw is going to stick around. Ace highs are probably going to stick around for maybe 1 bet. Small blind makes the call. The other 2 players fold, and we're hoping for a clean turn so we can blast off. Unfortunately, we get the ace of clubs, and he checks it to us. I think there's way too many aces in his range, so I check it back. We can still take a stab on the river if we need to, but the river's the 5 of hearts. which is also not an ideal card. And when he leads out for $100, I do not think that we can make him fold. So I just take the L, fold my cards, knock the table twice for good hand. He showed us that he had ace queen, so we beat him with ace queen last hand, and he takes down this one with ace queen. On to the next hand. All right, guys, for the next hand, we are looking at a double board PLO bomb pot. That means there's going to be 2 boards, and for PLO, you have to use 2 of the cards in your hand with 3 cards on the board to make the best 5 card hand. So that's why you're seeing so many cards. We have King, King, 7, 4. So on the bottom board, we flopped a set of kings, but it does have a flush available out there along with a straight. And in Omaha, if that's available, you better believe people are going to have it. On the top board, we have pocket kings with backdoor straight possibility and backdoor flush. Someone bets $10. Basically, it folds around, and eventually he gets callers because betting $10 into 45 on Omaha is never going to get fold. So 3 of us call. We're going 4-way to 2 turn cards. The first turn card is the ace of hearts, and then we get the 8 of clubs. So now we have a full house. Kings full of aces, which is a good hand, but still not the nuts. Someone can have ace 10, and someone can also have ace king, which beat us. So I check and flow. Under the gun player bets $25. Then another player goes all in for 40, and basically we're at a point where no one is going to be folding. Everyone likes their hands. We all call the 40 that he went all in for. And on the top, we have improved to a gut shot straight, I suppose. That's really all we have on that board. Other than that, we have a boat, which once again can be beat. But the rivers come. I check dark because I don't see any rivers that could come that would make me want to bet. With that being said, 6 of hearts and 6 of diamonds come. So we now improve. Somehow we hit our gut shot to a straight. Our 4-7 makes a straight up top for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Although that is not the nut straight, 7, 9 would be better. So we're still beat. But with that being said, we have a straight on one board and a full house on the other. So I check dark. People check. Eventually it does get to a player, and he decides to go all in for $120. With how the action went, I think we are probably scooping this pot from the other player in the hand. So I decide to repot and go all in for $350, hoping he will call and hoping I can take down all of this money in the middle. He does think about it for a while. And at this point, like I said, I'm just praying for a call. I'm hoping he has a flush. Maybe he thinks it's good. Maybe he has an ace and he hopes trips are good. I don't know what he could possibly have. Maybe he has a set on the other board and he's hoping I didn't straight out. Whatever it is, it's not good enough. He does fold his cards. I announce to the other players in the hand that I have a straight and I have a full house. The player flips over his cards, and luckily we are scooping the outside pot. So hitting our 6 on the river gave us a straight, which let us beat him. He did have a set of 10s on the other board, so he did have one of those hands that was, definitely needing us to suck out to get the win. I guess we saw another king, but we did have those 2 6s, and 6s came on each board, so we were hitting that straight regardless because the dealer loves us. That being said, it's $485 in this pot, and we are scooping the whole thing. This is our play. This is our buddy we've been getting in hands with left and right. He had some not so kind words, but on to the next hand. All right, for the next hand, we look down and see deuce 4 of diamonds. There's a $5 button straddle, small blind calls. I'm going to call for 3 more. I mean, it's deuce 4. We have 40% of a straight flush, 40% of the steel wheel. How could you ever fold that close to perfection? Anyways, the player to our left, which has been the action player, the player we've been in hands with, I believe, almost every single hand of this vlog, now that I'm editing it and looking at it. If not every hand, it's pretty close. Eventually, he decides to make the call. Under the gun, which was in middle position, we get some callers. Basically, we're going 5 ways to a flop, guys. So the flop comes out, and it is not that bad, but not that great either. Somehow we managed to flop a pair on a deuce 9-5 board. So there are 2 clubs. At this point, like I said, there's 5 people in the hand. I think I just check bottom pair. There's no reason to bet. If I bet and get called, I have no idea where I'm at. So action does check through, which brings the king of hearts on the turn. Action checks to me. Like I said, still no reason to bet, so I check. Under the gun does bet 15, which makes a folding cascade of people. Everyone returns their cards to the dealer. I, on the other hand, have evil intentions per usual. So I put in the call. We're going heads up to the river, and I have plans, y'all. I think he's weak right now. I think he's got a 1-pair holding, and I can push him off that with a lot of river. So when the ace of clubs comes, it's the perfect card. I check. He bets $25, and it's time to spring my trap. I raise it up to 65. In hindsight, I think 85 is a better raise, but 65 works. Anyways, he instantly calls, says he has the flush, and I'm happy I didn't raise to 85. But like I said, I think, results oriented. I did a fine raise. I shouldn't have even raised at all. Results oriented. But looking back, I do like a larger raise on the river. Either way, he takes down a $185 pot, and we're moving on to the next hand. All right, note to self and note to you guys, do not bet into flushes. Just fold your hand. Anyways, this time we're looking down at the King 9 offsuit. There is a $6 button straddle, and we get a total of 3 callers. So we're going 4 ways to this flop. Hopefully we can hit something, and hopefully we can win a decent one after just punting off some of our money last hand. Anyways, 8 deuce king is the flop. We flop top pair with a decent-ish kicker. That being said, it gets around to the hijack, and he decides to bet $30. So gets to the small blind. He is going to make the call. I have top pair. I don't think raising is a good idea. He bet over pot, and I think folding is something we just can't do yet. So I put in the call as well. We are going to the turn 3 ways. We did lose 1 player, luckily, and the pot is $114. Turn is a 7 of diamonds. Once again, I don't think I should lead. I think checking's fine. I'm gonna let the hijack continue to bet this pot. He bets 30. The small blind calls, and I call as well. I do not want to see any spade on this river. That's all I know. I don't know what else I need. That being said, 9 of spades comes on the river. It does give us 2 pair, but it does complete the front door flush. Luckily, it checks through. I announced that I have 2 pair. The opponent who was betting the entire time had king queen, so we did suck out on the river, and I do not know what the small blind had because he mucked his cards. Hey, I'll take a suck out, all right? It was a draw heavy board. I think $30. If he bets more in the turn, he can get us out of there. But with that being said, we're taking down the pot. Let's move on to the next hand. We look down on this hand and we see the beautiful ace-queen offsuit. That's right. I love me some ace-queen offsuit. I know it's called the parking lot hand, but I feel like it didn't get enough respect, It's a good hand. It's a good hand. It's no ace-king, but it can win some pots. Anyways, middle position raises up to 15. At this point, I'm going to re-raise to $50. Action does fold back around eventually until it gets back to the middle position player. He decides, YOLO, you only live once. He's going to go all in for his $106. I snap call, ask him how many times he would like to run it. He says he just wants to run it once. He shows us that he has ace-7 offsuit, so I am kind enough to flip over my cards, let him know that we have him dominated with ace-queen. My buddy in seat 1 is kind enough to point out that the 7 is going to come. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Feels good. Anyways, the flop is 10 jack deuce with 2 spades. So we do have the ace of spades. That's good. Turn is the king of spades. So he is drawing very thin. And when the 10 of hearts comes on the river, he is drawing dead. We scoop this $212 pot. And let's move on to the next hand. For this next hand, we look down and we see ace-9 offsuit. Not the best hand, so I decided just to limp in for $2. Unfortunately for me, the player in the hijack, who is the action player of the table, the player who's in like 90% of these hands, he raised it up to $20. I point out to him and let him know it's a 1-2 game. $20 on a 1-2 game is excessive pre-flop. I just let him know, I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. Anyways, he gets a couple callers. Small blind tags along. Eventually it gets around to the middle position player. He's counting up all his green chips. I am kind of needling him at this point. I'm like, it's okay. You got a little bit of cheese. You can play because, he's been playing a little bit snug as of right now. We haven't seen him in too many hands. So some alarm bells do go off when he decides to call. I snap call because, there's $60 out there. I'm already in for 2, another 18. That's not going to hurt anyone. And we are hoping to hit the flop, which is exactly what we do when the flop comes out. Jack, ace, queen. We flop top pair with a 9 kicker, but on this board, that's really not too much. So I decide to check in flow once again to the pre-flop aggressor, and he has no issues firing out for $30. I actually think this is a good size bet. It's a little less than half pot, so even if he's bluffing or has value, he can bet this and sometimes take the hand down. Anyways, small blind decides to make the call. it gets back around to the middle position player, and he is tanking for this $30 bet. Once again, we're all friends here. We play together a whole bunch. We're pretty much ribbing him and needling him, giving him a hard time, asking him if he would like some time chips, you know, the things that friends do on a poker table. Regardless, eventually he does decide that $30 is in fact too much. It's too much for him. He decides he's going to make a fold. So action does eventually get back around to us, and obviously we have top pair. There's no reason to raise, but no reason to fold quite yet, even though we could be drawing pretty slim to some combinations, 2 pairs, straights, things like that. So 3 ways to a turn, and it is the 7 of spades, not exactly the card we want to see because the front door flush does get there immediately, and we do not have any blockers to it. So as before on the flop, action does get checked around to the hijack player, and he decides he is going to make a bet of $75. That does KO the small blind player. He eventually returns his cards to the dealer. It was too much for him to see another card. And at this point, I think there's no problem in folding. It's perfectly fine, but I do decide to make the call and stick around to see what develops on the river. 3 of hearts comes on the river, changing absolutely nothing about this hand. I check. He immediately throws out a blackboard for $100, which once again, I think is a good bet, but I sit back and think about the hand and I try to figure out what he has. I do think an ace high flush could play this way, flop top pair, and then had a flush draw. But other than that, I don't really know what hand is going for 3 streets. I could have a flush and be slow playing. So I slam my chips in the middle because I can't figure out what he has. He had 9-10 for the open-ended and never got there. So we are taking down this $520 pot with ace-9 offsuit. Not recommended, but hey, you can't argue with the results. On to the next hand. All right, guys, this is one of the last 2 hands for the vlog. We have a $5 button straddle. Look down and see 5-7 offsuit. Now, the player to my left, who once again has been the action player and is on every hand of the vlog, it appears, raises it up to $20. He does get a few callers, which in return prices us in, so I don't feel like I can fold for 15 more. I think he gets 3 callers. We make the 4th, so 4 callers in total plus him. That's $100 in the pot. 15 to win 100. That's just too good of odds. 5-7 can hit, you know, straights and stuff. I mean, we have a chance basically is what I'm saying. Going 5 ways to the flop, which is 4-6-9. That's right, we flop open-ended. This is one of those hands that it can hit, or one of those boards, I should say. There are 2 diamonds, so there's a flush draw out there. We have to be aware of that, and we have to, you know, kind of tread lightly. But with that being said, when action checks around to us, I think this board hits us more than it does the pre-flop raiser. So I bet $65 in position. The small blind asks how much it is. He is a non-believer. We have been battling all night, so it is very understandable that he does not believe me. Eventually, he does come to the conclusion that this guy has position, and he's going to take a stab. So on this board, since it is so dynamic, I think 65 is fine. I actually like a little bit higher, like 75, maybe even 80 on this board texture because it's so wet. You have to charge the draws. That being said, I bet 65. It is what it is. Small blind calls, and we're going heads up to a turn, which is the 10 of hearts. Now, this doesn't change anything other than 7-8 getting there, which we do block because we have this 7. We also have the 5 of hearts, which is good because backdoor hearts came in. So when he checks to me, I lead out for 135, and he is in the blender. He does not know what to do. He is a non-believer, but at the same time, he has a very weak hand. I don't know what hand he has, but I'm thinking he probably has some sort of ace-high hand that just doesn't believe me. Maybe I don't even know what kind of pair he would have that he'd be folding here. Maybe he has bottom pair, a pair of 4s, maybe a pair of 6s that was non-believing on the flop and wanted to see what I did on the turn. But eventually, he does finally find a fold, and I'll let you guys go to the audio to have his assessment of the hand.
Fucking sense. Fuck.
Sir, it makes sense. Look.
Yeah, fucking bullshit.
Alright guys, it's time for the final hand of the night. My poor buddy, he had a read on me, but couldn't quite pull the trigger. This time we have a $10 button straddle. He has 5, the villain of the whole vlog. He's not really a villain, but I guess that's what people call it. Anyways, Jack 10 of clubs is what we look down at. He calls my $10 straddle. Action folds back around to me, and with a hand as strong as this, I have to raise it up. I mean, Jack 10 is just a mwah, chef's kiss, beautiful hand. One of my favorite starting hands in poker. Yes, I know aces and kings and all those premiums, but this connects with a ton of the board and flops really well. So I raise it up to $55. He thinks for a little bit. The night's getting young. It's getting late. It's getting late in the night. Words are hard, okay? Give me a break. Anyways, we don't have many hands left to play. So he says, screw it. I can gamble with you, throws in the $55 call, and we're going heads up to this flop, which is a pretty decent flop. Very dynamic board, though. Comes out 9, 10, jack, 2 diamonds. So we flop top 2 pair. There are 2 diamonds out. There's straight possibilities out there. So I throw out $60. He calls it, and we are still going heads up to this turn, which is a horrible turn. It's the 8 of hearts. So now any queen beats us, any 7 beats us. Luckily, it goes check, check, and we bink the 10 of diamonds on the river. That's right. We have a full house. I bet 150. He goes all in for 250. I immediately snap call him, let him know I have jack 10 for the full house. He bangs the table. He is upset. He had queen 5, so he was open-ended and hit it straight on the turn. Luckily, he checked, because I think if he fires and goes all in, I just have to fold there. But for some reason, the dealer's like, just grab your chips, and doesn't ship them to me. This is weird. I hate grabbing opponent's chips. It's kind of awkward, but $730 going my way at the end of the night. And let's go the outro to see how much we made. All right, guys, so we're in the game for 300, out for 1,100, so it's $800 profit. Appreciate all the love and support. We had a swingy session. It was fun. It was a good time. And if you want to, click on the video on the screen. YouTube seems to think you'll like it. Catch you guys on the next one.